3.4, multiplying integers, exponents, and patterns. So the learning target today is that you're going to be able to recognize and use the rules of multiplying integers when exponents are involved. So what do exponents mean? The base is the first number and the exponent is the small raised number. So let's look at 4 cubed. So that means 4 times 4 times 4. This 4 we call is the base. So this is your base. And then this 3 is your exponent. So how do we evaluate 6 squared? Well, 6 squared is just 6 times 6 times 6 times... Ooh, no, I lied. How many of you found that out? It's just 6 times 6. I was getting carried away. Okay. And then how do we evaluate 3 times 3? I mean 3 cubed. So that'd be 3 times 3 times 3. So this means that this is the base, and this is how many it is multiplied. You're not multiplying 3 times 3, you're multiplying 3 times 3 times 3. So you're multiplying 3 times. Or in this case, you're multiplying 6 2 times. So what is 6 times 6? Well, that is 36. Okay. Well, what's this 3 times 3? Well, that's 9. And then we need to bring down the times 3. So 9 times 3 is 27. So that means 3 cubed equals 27. And 6 squared equals 36. So here's a video on exponents if you'd like to watch. Evaluate the following. So I have negative 3 squared. So what does that mean? It means negative 3 times negative 3. Okay, so we use what we learned yesterday and just multiplying integers. So we multiply a negative times a negative, so that's a positive. So I'll put a positive there, but you don't need to. And then 3 times 3 is 9. So really, you just have 9 is your answer. This one is negative 5 times to the third power. So I have negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5. So how many do I have here? So I have negative times a negative is a positive, so this would be a positive 25. And then I would have times a negative 25. Okay, so a positive times a negative is a negative. And then 25 times 5 is 125. Okay. All right, negative 6 squared. Now, we have to be careful with this one. This is just saying that I'm squaring the 6, not the negative, okay? So this would be like a negative on the outside, and then you have the 6, and you're squaring that, okay? So I have negative 6, or it's not really a negative 6, it's a negative, and then you have 6 squared. So then 6 squared is 36. So this is negative 36. All right, same thing here. You're just cubing this part here, okay? So you have the negative out front, and then you have the 10 cubed. You can put it like that if you want to see it that way too. Okay, so 10 cubed is 10 times 10 times 10. And then times the negative. Okay, so 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. and then you need to put the negative in front there because it's on the outside. Now, the difference between these and these, so these two right here, and then the top two, this is squaring the whole number here. This is only squaring that number that it's attached to, and the negative is just on the outside. Okay, so what is the pattern here? So we know that 2 to the first power is just 2. And then 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4. This one is 2 times 2 times 2, right? So you got 4, and then times another 2, which is 8. So how are we getting from here to here? What are we doing each time? We're multiplying by 2, okay? So to get from here to here, we multiply it by 2, right? So 8 times 2 is 16. Or you can see it as 2 times 2 times 2, which is what we had before, and then times 2. You're just multiplying another 2. All right, so to get from here, 16, to this next one, I would have 16 times 2. So 16 times 2 is 32. And then I would have the 32 times 2, right? So then I get 64. All right, so now let's look at the bottom half. What is the pattern here? Well, it's going to be similar to this one, but I want you to notice what's different here. So this is negative 2 to the first power. Well, that's just negative 2 times nothing. Or you can say it's 1 if you really wanted to. So your answer is negative 2. This one is negative 2 times a negative 2. So a negative times a negative is a positive, so this is 4. Well, same thing here. This is a negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. This is positive 4, but I'm multiplying that by a negative 2, so it's going to be negative 8. Okay, so what's the pattern? I'm multiplying by a negative 2. Oops. I'm going to reset. Negative 2 each time, right? So a negative times a negative is a positive, so this time it will be 16. Then I'm going to multiply by a negative 2 again here, so it would be negative 32. And then I would multiply here times a negative 2, so I get a positive 64. So I want you to look and see how do you know when it's a negative or a positive when you're raising it to the a different exponent? So what kind, is this odd or even? It's odd, right? What's this one? Even. Odd, even. Odd, even. What can you say about odd and even? So here's odd, odd, odd. It looks like all the odds are negative. So what does it look like? When you have an integer that is positive, okay, say the green, and the exponent is odd, your answer is going to be positive. If you have an integer that's positive and it's even, it's going to be positive. So if we look back over here, so this is positive, this is odd, even, odd, even, and all of these are positives, okay? So that's why this is positive and positive, okay, no matter if it's odd or even. But when your integer is negative and it's odd, let's look at this slide again. So here's odd, your answer is going to be negative, okay? So here's odd, your answer is negative. However, when you have a negative integer and the exponent is even, so all these other ones here, so here's even and we have a negative integer, it's going to be positive. So this one's positive, positive, and positive. So then this is going to be positive. Okay, so this is wrapping up the lesson here. I do want to make a note for you that when you have a negative, let's say 3, okay, and it's raised to the power of, let's say 3, okay, we said that I have a negative integer, right, and it's odd, it's going to be negative. This is true. This means negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. I'll put these in parentheses just so you can kind of tell. Okay? So this would be here, positive 9 times a negative 3. Okay? And that is negative 27. So the negative 3 cubed equals negative 27. However, remember we talked about if I had a negative here and then I have a negative 3 here, okay? So there's 2 negatives, okay? And then I'm raising the negative 3 cubed, right? Which we said that this right here was what? Negative 27. So I have a negative 27 here, but I'm multiplying it by another negative out here, okay? So I'm going to erase that for right now and show you like this. So this becomes a negative and then times negative 3 times a negative 3 times a negative 3, okay? And this right here, we came up with that it was negative 27. But we still have that negative out in front. So a negative and a negative is a positive 27. So you got to be careful. Yes, right here, this part here is negative. However, there is a negative on the outside, which is causing this to become your final answer, positive. All right, so that wraps up 3.4